they essentially have 1 foot in the Premier League.
They're 1 point away from it. Just let that sink in for a second. Just get the result, and then you're in the Premier League.
All signs point towards the Premier League at this stage. Hello, and welcome to the Second Tier Podcast. I'm Ryan Dilks, and I'm joined by the Paul Lambert to my Kieran McKenna. It's Justin Peach.
Good day to you, Ryan.
The midweek show on a Wednesday. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're doing things a day earlier than usual so we can give you his reaction as close to the Ipswich game as possible. So more on that shortly. It's also the final midweek show of the normal season, so it's a big time here. It's the business end of the season, ladies and gentlemen. Truly the business end. Things are just really wrapping up in terms of the business. And because it's a midweek show, Justin, I thought we may as well do the ceremonial thing that we always do on midweek shows and get a quote from the Book of Warnock. Is that all right with you?
I guess we can maintain this tradition we have developed with our listeners.
Cool. Would you like to give me a page number, please?
Ooh, page number. I'll go with 33.
33. You can certainly have that. I think we've already done these. So I'll move on to page 34, Justin. And flipping heck. This is Neil Warnock when he was Sheffield United manager. What he shouted to Leeds boss Kevin Blackwell after Gary Kelly's 50-50 challenge on Craig Short. I hope he breaks his fucking leg next time.
always sat on the fence, isn't he, Neil Warnock?
Yeah, he's not one to mess around. This one is from when he was Crystal Palace boss after getting caught up in a pitch invasion at Ashton Gate. He says, one young Bristol City yobbo caught me. I think one of the security guards trod on him as he fell to the floor because I heard him squeal. He needs his eyesight looking at because he was that close. I don't know how he missed. He just grazed me. There's millions of people who would like to do that.
He's not wrong. Why was the fan on the floor? Did he fall over, or did old Neil leave one
just
on him?
Looked at him, he glared at him, and he just collapsed to the floor just and then the security guard trod on him. That's the power of the Warnock, and that's why we read his book every midweek episode. But welcome to the number one championship podcast, the Second Tier. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. Yes, this is a midweek edition of the Second Tier, and as I say, it's the final one of the normal season, and that's because we've got 2 big games for us to go through, one of which was Leicester wrapping up the championship title, so congratulations to them. We'll talk about that game very shortly, and we'll also talk about the massive game at the Coventry Building Society Arena. And we've also got a couple of newsy bits at the end of the show to go through as well. But as I say, let's talk about that game at Coventry. And Ipswich Town have moved up to second in the table with 1 game to go after beating Coventry 2-1 on Tuesday night. It means they just need 1 point on the final day to secure promotion. More on that shortly. And Justin, everyone was talking about Ipswich before the game, how they needed a result. It meant people weren't talking about Coventry City. And to be fair to Coventry, they made them work for that win, didn't they?
Well, yeah, they did, and that's what they're going to do because they're a good side, Coventry. I know they've fallen away a little bit and they've not won in their last 5, and they've had the disappointment of the FA Cup semi-final as well. But they're a good side with really good individuals, and I think that's the really promising thing for Mark Robinson next season, the fact that you've got players like Haji Wright and Ellis Sims. Ellis Sims has been fantastic since the turn of the year. So they're always going to make any team work. It doesn't matter if it's Ipswich, Leeds, Rotherham, any team like that. They're going to make them work, and they did that with Ipswich. And I think it was a scrappy game. It was a game of sort of half chances, to throw a cliche in there. There wasn't anything sort of overly clear cut apart from that period where the ball just wouldn't go in. It was pinball. It was literal pinball. I can't remember. It was Casey Palmer had a shot. I can't remember who had the final shot, but Hladky pulled off a wonder save. But Coventry are going to make moments like that against Ipswich. Ipswich aren't going to give too many opportunities away, apart from the ones they do give away time and time again, because it's Ipswich Town. I know it's a contradiction, but you get what I mean. And yeah, as I say, I'm just going to go back to the first point. Very good side, Coventry, and they showed that. It's just a shame that they don't have a playoff place to play for.
Yeah, well, you mentioned that pinball moment. I think it was at that point where you text me saying, how has that not gone in? And I imagine quite a few Leeds fans were thinking the same thing. And maybe that was a sign that that they're just not destined to be automatically promoted this season. Badke did let himself down later on with the Coventry goal where he turned into a liquid. So it all evens itself out, I suppose. But that was a remarkable passage of play. But a tight game. Coventry had plenty of possession, but struggled to turn it into genuine chances. As we say, their best chance was that goalmouth scramble pinball moment, and then the goal really shouldn't have gone in, but that's how it goes sometimes. Coventry looked like a side who were low on confidence, I think. You mentioned it, Justin. They've only picked up 1 point from their last 5 games now. Considering they took Manchester United to the limit a couple of weeks ago, you'd have thought they would be confident, but they're clearly not right now, and that's why their season has fizzled out quite dramatically. And I think Ipswich played them at a good time. They still had to defend, and they did really well in that regard, even though it's not been a strength for them this season. I don't think Ipswich were great, but the thing we've been saying a lot recently is it doesn't matter how you win at this stage in the season, as long as you get it. And Ipswich have done that, and I think they coped with the pressure really well, considering this is one of their biggest games of the past 20 years. They didn't look like it was overbearing them too much, Justin.
No, it didn't. And I think there are a lot of things that will add to that pressure. The fact that it was on Sky, the fact that the away fans travelled so well and the atmosphere was an incredible one from the away end. It really was. I think that can add to the pressure a little bit. And as well as that, Coventry were quite disciplined and rugged, and didn't allow Ipswich to get into their stride. If you let Ipswich get into stride, they'll eat you alive. And they didn't allow that to happen. That's why it was such a scrappy game at times. And there was sort of half chances, and even the pinball moment can be enough to swing a game in an opposition team's favour and allow that pressure to build. But they coped with it, and I think that's the most impressive thing. You go back to the Hull game. I don't think they really coped with the pressure, which is why I'd argue that they bottled it somewhat, because drop a lead 3 times. You're not coping with the pressure. And I think with this one, the game could have easily swung in Coventry's favour when they equalised, and it didn't. Ipswich just stayed calm, they stayed cool, and they played their game, and eventually they got the world's scrappiest goal. A goal that would define a game, I think, was the Christian Burgess goal. But as I say, they did cope with the pressure. I think it's probably the most impressive I've been with their sort of game management and control than I have been for a long time this season.
Yeah, well, I think the pressure is a massive thing at this stage, isn't it? Because Leeds have obviously not done a great job of handling the pressure when it really mattered. Leicester were crumbling somewhat, but managed to get past it in the end. And Ipswich, despite all the pressure that's on them, they're still playing some lovely football at times, and that was the case here. They just seem somewhat immune to the pressure. I mean, the Ipswich fans seem to... the pressure seemed to be with them quite a lot. The relief when that final whistle went was very evident. But it was at this stage of the season, it's all about how you handle that pressure. And look, Ipswich haven't won many games recently, but they've still managed to handle it a lot better than Leeds. And that's the bare minimum that they had to do at this stage. Interesting stat for you, Justin. Kieran McKenna's never lost a league game on a weekday as a manager. That is... mental, isn't it? Considering he's been in the EFL now for 3 years, and the number of games you have in a weekday as an EFL manager is absolutely crazy. But I just thought I'd bring that out there. But look, this is exactly what Ipswich needed, wasn't it? A draw would have been a good result, because their destiny would have been in their hands on the final day. But a win, a win. It means they essentially have 1 foot in the Premier League at this stage, doesn't it, Justin?
Yeah, they're putting 1 foot in a really hot bath, aren't they? They put it in there, they're taking it out, just letting it cool down a little bit, and then come 3 o'clock on Saturday, they are in it. They are diving in that Premier League bathtub. But no, I do agree. I would say that they do have 1 foot in the Premier League. They're 1 point away from it. Just let that sink in for a second. They're playing at Portman Road, and it's against an all but relegated Huddersfield. All you need to do is what you're good at Portman Road. That's winning games. Keep your composure. Keep calmness. Allow that to go from this Coventry game, that sort of the strict game management that they had. Allow it to be scrappy. It doesn't matter. Just get the result, and then you're in the Premier League. Just let that sink in for a moment, Ipswich fans. It's incredible achievement.
Yeah, they're still going to be nervous, even though all signs point towards the Premier League at this stage. I can still imagine Ipswich fans have just got that little bit of doubt in their mind that makes them think, this isn't over just yet. But as you say, it's Huddersfield at home on the final day, who are, of course, all but relegated now. As far as final games of the season go, you could have not asked for a much better opponent. If Huddersfield still had something to fight for, then I think I could let people off for saying this isn't over yet. And there may still be that doubt in their mind because, they've still, well up for it, I suppose. But because they are down now and they're wallowing in their own self-pity, it's difficult to see them going to Portman Road and completely upsetting the apple cart. And it's also got to be pointed out, Ipswich have lost just one league game all season at Portman Road, and that was against Leeds. So it would take quite a ridiculous turn of events for them not to get promoted at this stage, wouldn't it, Justin?
It would be very final day of the season, though, wouldn't it? It would be very final day of the season.
If they didn't do it, Justin, it would take final day drama to a whole new level, wouldn't it? And we've also got to keep in mind as well, Huddersfield are big rivals with Leeds. I'm not sure they'll be as up for it as normal teams would be on the final day as well. So it would take something quite out of the ordinary at this stage, wouldn't it?
It absolutely would, but at the same time, the Championship does serve up the out of the ordinary. I mean, Leeds have only Ipswich have only lost 6 games all season. Can you imagine if they lose the most important one, the pivotal one, the
second worst team in the league?
Exactly. It would be so Championship. It would be so final day. All of the stars have aligned for Ipswich, except this chunky, fat, gobby star that is the Championship, i.e. the drama it brings, the unpredictability it brings. That's the only star that is refusing to get in line for Ipswich, and it could cost them if it doesn't. Oh my God.
Yeah. Think back to when Forest needed to just get a point against. Who was it? Was it Millwall?
Swansea.
No. Swansea were the team they were playing.
Oh, right. Yes, it was.
Yeah, Swansea Swansea needed that 5-goal swing on the final day to get into the playoffs, and it looked like, well, that's it, doesn't it? I mean, that's the most dramatic example I can think of final day drama.
Yeah.
So look, it's not completely out the question, but this would top that by quite a distance, wouldn't it? And even that was ridiculous in its own right. I mean, I have seen a lot of people paying tribute to Kieran McKenna and the job he's done at Ipswich on social media. We've been doing that all season anyway. A lot of people are also essentially acting like they're already promoted. We won't be doing that just yet. We'll just make sure they get it over the line first. However, one thing I will say, and it's the final point I'll make on Ipswich, if they get the job done at the weekend, I will be so fucking unbearable because, ladies and gentlemen, I've kept receipts. And that's all I'm going to say on the matter. Justin, let's take a quick break. After that, we'll talk about Leicester City finally claiming the Championship title. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast, and let's go to the game on Monday night where Leicester City officially claims the Championship title after easing past Preston 3-0. It's pretty much a walk in the park for Leicester, wasn't it? It's probably even one of their best performances of the season. It's amazing what can happen when the pressure's off, isn't it, Justin?
Yeah, the pressure's off, and a team they're playing against are pretty much on the beach. I mean, what epitomised the game was how good the defending was for Jamie Vardy's netbuster. So yes, it was a walk in the park for Leicester. But
Wout Faes literally had a walk in the park when he was going for the second goal, wasn't he?
Exactly. So by it being literally that factor, it was a walk in the park. But look, they got the job done. They could have crumbled like games gone past, but they didn't. They stood up to the test, and they finally proved what they're capable of. But no, all jokes aside, I think Leicester winning the Championship titles is more than deserved. They have been the best team in the league, and I think what they did here is they channeled what they were good at. What we saw between August and sort of November, December time, which was a controlled Leicester who did attack with some poise, and it was good to see. It was really good to see. Just pity we didn't see it between sort of January and 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, the last few months, really.
Yeah.
But you're right, Abdul Fattah was class once again. Reports say he will be signing in the summer, because there was a bit of confusion about whether that would happen or not because of their transfer embargo, but reports say it won't be carried into the Premier League because it's an EFL-enforced embargo. So Good news that they're getting Fataru, and good news that embargo apparently isn't going to carry on. Good to see young Casey McAteer get on the score sheet too. He's a young lad who started off playing pretty regularly for Leicester at the beginning of the season, but hasn't played a whole lot of football recently, mainly because of injury. But when he's played, he's looked a tidy player. Won't be surprised if he's sent out on loan somewhere in the Championship next season, actually. So, yeah, it was a really good performance from Leicester. And as we say, it was Leicester at their peak, really, wasn't it? Which is not something we have seen a lot in the past few months. But now that the pressure's off, all the quality just really comes out, doesn't it? But this game was, by and large, all about one man, the Vardster, who was turned up to 100 on Monday night, wasn't he? You know, I'm not talking about in terms of his playing levels. I'm talking about Jamie Vardy being Jamie Vardy. His first goal, he celebrated by going absolutely mad in front of the Preston fans. If you saw someone doing that in the street, you would call 999 and say, someone stop this man. His second, he had an open goal, a tap-in, and he smashes it into the roof of the net for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And then in the celebrations afterwards, he was properly leading them, wasn't he? He was sliding around in front of the fans on the grass and went absolutely flying. And my favourite bit was a video where a couple of the players are dancing in the changing rooms afterwards, and in the background you can hear Vardy. He's talking to Wanya Marçal, who's a young winger, not really played this season. Vardy very audibly says to him in the background, "Wanya, you've done fuck all season. Get up and dance." it's just absolutely quality. But he's just a legend, isn't he, Justin? And with promotion in the bag, the title's been chucked in that bag too. Leicester can start planning for next season. One big question is, will Jamie Vardy be a part of those plans? Should he be a part of those plans? Well, he's out of contract in the summer. Vardy says he has no plans to hang up the boots, and reports over the past 24 hours say he's expected to sign a new one-year deal. Do you think that is the right decision, Justin?
I do and I don't. I think romantically, I think retiring now would be perfect for him. He's had an incredible season. He's scored 20 goals, for goodness sake, this season, which I don't think many people would have envisaged, especially, you know, with the state of play, his standard of his performances in the Premier League. But at the age of 37, scoring 20 goals is Kevin Phillips territory, for goodness sake. You know, you don't do that unless you're really, really sort of a proven goal scorer, and he's done that. So I think romantically it would be perfect for him to retire now, because I think it's going to be a bumpy ride for Leicester next season, and I can't see him scoring 20 goals, to be very polite, to next season. That being said, Leicester have been dreadful at replacing leaders on every year's gone by. You know, the likes of Robert Hoos left, Wes Morgan, Kasper Schmeichel, you know, the real big personalities, big leaders at the club. Never replaced him. And Jamie Vardy is the last strand of that. So if he goes, it's a big hole to fill. Whereas actually giving themselves an extra year, having his leadership, his experience, his ability to motivate the young players, as you pointed out in the dressing room with Wanya Marçal, the ability to do that, having that in and around the group, I think it's going to be important next season, because it's going to be an uncomfortable one potentially for Leicester.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of motivating young players, isn't it? Yeah, look, you're talking about what he means to the changing rooms. I think they need him on the pitch as well, because, look, Leicester have had 4 strikers this season. 2 are in their mid-20s and cost the club £30 million each. Another is a 21-year-old who costs £7.5 million. Yet the one who's been by far the most consistent of the bunch this season is a 37-year-old who's in his 12th year at the club. I mean, he's got 18 goals in the league this season, which means he's now the 5th top goal scorer in the division, which has really crept up, because he scored the vast majority of those goals in the second half of the season when Leicester weren't doing very well. So it goes to show that when Leicester are struggling, he can still produce the goods in some shape or form. But my point is, with the striker situation, I think Leicester need him next season, because Ian Acho's probably going to leave. He's out of contract. Patson Daka is Patson Daka. Leicester will be hoping they can move him on in the summer, and Tom Cannon's simply not ready for the Premier League. So they need Vardy to stay, because he's their only viable striker option. Now, I'm not saying he should be starting each week, because I think they've got to sign another striker in the summer. But as far as super subs go, you can't do much better than a fox in the box like him, who's one of the greatest goal scorers in Premier League history. Plus, as you say, Justin, what he brings in the changing room as well. So for me, it's more a question of why is it taking so long for him to be given a new deal as opposed to whether he should. For me, it's a complete no-brainer. It'd be daft for them not to give him a new deal.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It would be ridiculous not to. The point I made about the likes of Kasper Schmeichel and Wes Morgan sort of leaving and retiring without being replaced is a significant factor here. Leicester have done a really bad job of what's the word I'm looking for? Continuation planning or planning beyond sort of those types of players. They've done a really bad job of it. They've thrown money at the wall and it's not stuck. Patson Daka is never going to be a Jamie Vardy. No one's ever going to be a Jamie Vardy. I'll make that point very, very clear. But what they need to bring in is not only do they need to bring in a goal scorer, but they need to bring in someone who's a leader as well. And that's a couple of difficult things to do. So logically, it just makes sense to just give the guy a new 1-year deal and just see what happens next season.
Yeah, absolutely, Justin, absolutely. But of course, congratulations to Leicester, even though we have said recently about their drop-off taking the gloss off the achievement of getting promoted and winning the title. Still a very difficult thing to do, winning the league, and they deserve credit for it because for 70% of the season they have been fantastic, haven't they? Probably one of the strongest teams we've ever seen at Championship level. It's just that 30% which has let them down somewhat, but still a lot of credit they deserve. The reality of the situation might be hitting home soon, though, Justin, because Sky Sports is reporting Leicester are seriously considering selling Kiernan Dewsbury Hall before the end of June to avoid breaching EFL financial rules. It's going to be a huge blow, isn't it, if they're forced to sell the guy who is, without a doubt, their best player.
Yeah, their best player. No shadow of doubt. I know Leicester fans, it'd be a bitter pill to swallow because Dewsbury Hall is born and bred Leicester. He came from Shepshed, which is just not too far away from Leicester as a whole, and he came through the academy and whatnot. He's a Leicester boy, and as well as that, he's their best player. As you quite rightly say, he's a fantastic asset to have. So him leaving because the club's, I wouldn't say mismanagement, but actually no, I would say mismanagement, poor management and poor recruitment. That's the reason why they're leaving. Kiernan Dewsbury Hall should be playing in the Premier League with Leicester, and if it wasn't for some really bad signings and some really poor management, Brendan Rodgers and co, it would be. But it's not going to be the case. And as we alluded to sort of a couple of episodes ago, we did say next season could be a struggle for Leicester, and if they're going to have to sell Kiernan Dewsbury Hall to balance the books from a financial fair play perspective, it is a huge that's going to play a huge factor in that. They're not going to be able to reinvest that money back into the squad. I think that's the thing that Leicester fans need to wake up to. This isn't a reinvestment job. This is we need to keep these people at arm's length so we don't get in trouble like Everton and Forest have. So yeah, it's an interesting scenario. I mean, hopefully it doesn't happen. Hopefully they can make it work somehow. But I think the most likely scenario come August is Kiernan Dewsbury Hall won't be lining up for Leicester.
Yeah, well, he did say at the club's end-of-season awards that he has no intention of leaving. I wonder if someone's had a word in his ear afterwards to say, Kiernan, if we don't sell you, we will literally have points taken off us. So please stop saying things like that. But, I mean, you talk about the lack of a continuation plan, Justin. The reason why Kiernan Dewsbury Hall is probably the one they have to sell is because they haven't got many other sellable assets, really. I mean, you've got Dewsbury Hall, who is the most sellable one. I mean, Stefan Mavididi is still pretty raw, isn't he? I'm not sure there's going to be like a huge queue of Premier League clubs lining up to get him. Wout Faes is maybe one. James Justin, I think people will be a bit put off by his injury record. Mm-hmm. Apart from that, Wilfred Ndidi's out of contract, so you're not going to get a massive fee for him. Kelechi Iheanacho also out of contract. Apart from that, there isn't many others in there who you'd be looking at and thinking, well, who else can we sell to, get a load of money in so we don't get punished for a financial fair play. So, unfortunately, it may have to be Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, and he is their best player. So that's the reality of the situation for Leicester, and how much money are they actually going to have to spend in the summer? That's the issue here, and that's why you've got to approach next season with a bit of scepticism from Leicester's position, unfortunately, because I don't know how they're going to approach things in terms of how much money they've actually got to spend, what they can do and not get punished. So that's unfortunately the situation, and it's a bit of a worrying one. It's got to be said. Because if they lose to someone like Kiernan Disby Hall, that's a really bad start to the upcoming season, isn't it? Justin, let's go through some of the newsy bits from the past few couple of days in the Championship. And we'll start off with Sky Sports, who have revealed which Championship games will be televised on the final day. Of course, Ipswich v Huddersfield will be, as will Leeds v Southampton. The other game is Birmingham v Norwich. Could potentially be the game which sees Birmingham go down. Are you happy with those games, Justin, that selection of telly games?
Who am I? Am I the TV god here, Ryan? Who am I to tell Sky Sports who they should play? I might want to watch Stoke v Bristol City.
You can do if you want.
I probably can do. I'll double check.
I'm the only person in the world.
Yeah, not even Stoke fans will be watching that one. No, I think it's a really good crop of games. I think it's the obvious crop of games. Like I said, the other one that sprang to mind was Stoke v Bristol City. That's the only one that I'd rather be watching. But obviously, for the sake of the podcast, I'll watch these ones. But it's going to be a day, like we were alluding to sort of in the first half. The fact that it could be dramatic. The final day could serve up. The most drama of drama, it's a Downton Abbey of drama. I don't really know dramas, ITV dramas very well. Yeah, Downton Abbey was the first one that came to my mind. But hey, we'll go with it. So yeah, I think what it could potentially serve up is excitement, or every team could win as expected and nothing happen, and it'd be a complete waste of time.
Yeah, well, the only other game which potentially stood out to me as one which could be possibly transferred in was Plymouth v Hull. But I mean, obviously Birmingham potentially going down there's more at risk there, isn't there? It's more likely that Birmingham go down. Yeah,
there's also a potential for a Paul Caddis moment as well.
And
Jay Stansfield. Yeah, I'm trying to think who's the right back. And Ethan Laird scoring a back post header, for example.
Okay,
and sending the stadium into raptures.
Potentially a bit too on the nose if Ethan Laird scores the last-minute equaliser or winner. But, I mean, we're approaching this final day where we've got at least half the games where there is a lot on the line still. Mm-hmm. So that's very exciting. And it may be a situation where we have to double screen this, maybe even triple screen it somehow. Or, just find as many screens as you can in your house, The
electric bill is going to be through the roof. All that Sky Sports. And a Sky subscription, good Lord. It's going to be a spenny month, May isn't it?
It's going to be terrible. Speaking of the final days of the EFL season, we didn't have a chance to mention this on Sunday, Justin, but the League One playoffs are now set in stone. Bolton play Barnsley while Peterborough take on Oxford in the semi-finals. Justin, if you had to choose, which of those sides would you most like to see in the Championship next season?
I've gone on record saying that Ian Evatt, when he loses, his piss is boiled. He's a salty man. Doesn't matter how they could get battered, and he'll find fault in opposition. And I think that having that in the Championship would be fantastic, just to cover it. The other side of it is Peterborough. Every time I watch them in League One, they are one of the most incredible footballing teams. They're so well drilled. It's unreal. But they come to the Championship and they forget how to do it. So I don't want to waste my time expecting that to happen again. So I'll go with Bolton. Oxford's a horrendous away day because there's nowhere to park around the ground. So for the sake of the fans, let's not go with Oxford. I've seen Barnsley a lot. A bit bored of Barnsley now. They just sacked their managers just before the end of the season, which is an incredible time to do it.
Yeah.
If Darren Moored it, the old West Brom Darren Moore scenario. But again, it's hard to see them overcoming what they're going through at the moment as well.
Yeah, it's an absolutely mental decision, that, isn't it? But yeah, I think I'd agree with you. I'd like to see Bolton just because, first of all, it's been a long time since we've had them in the Championship. Big club, be nice to have them back in the second tier. And I think them and Peterborough have been by far the two best teams not to get automatically promoted in League One this season. So I think they would be the choice for me. Peterborough, I think, are an exciting side to watch, but we've had them in the Championship in recent years as well, haven't we? So Bolton would be my choice just because it's something different. And plus, big club. And considering we are a podcast who benefits off having big clubs in the Championship, then you know what? I think that'll be the most sensible choice for me. Speaking of big clubs, Justin, reports say Daniel Farke is set to stay on as Leeds manager next season, even if he fails to get them promoted. That's according to Footy Insider, who says the club hierarchy have been impressed with the team's results this season, no matter how the season ends. Is that the right decision, do you think, Justin?
I think it is. I think continuity is essential in success. Let's look at Brentford, for example. Didn't pull the plug on Thomas Frank, nor did Sheffield United with Paul Heckingbottom. Less so on the continuity, but they could have gone in a different direction after Paul Heckingbottom failed to get them past Nottingham Forest in the playoffs a couple of seasons ago. Did deliver automatics the following season. So I think with Leeds, let's say they do fail to go up next season, they will have by far the best squad, best resources in the Championship next season. They'll
Probably
have Daniel Farke at the helm.
They
might do. We don't know what the financial. This is the annoying thing about financial fair play is you have to caveat everything is with it. We don't know what their situation is going into next season, whether they're going to need to sell stars or they might be all right with the squad that they've got. For example, it's a really annoying piece of admin that you've got to have an eye on. I just want to talk about the football, whatever. I could talk about that until I'm blue in the face, but nonetheless, I think Leeds will still have the best squad. Even if they have to sell a few assets, they will still have the best squad in the division. So I think if they don't go up, they'll be favourites for the title.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think Daniel Farke has to stick around whether they go up or not this season. The thing is, his record at Championship level is absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? And while this is a slight blemish on if they don't go up, that is a slight blemish on that record, it's still a ridiculous record. So, you'll be sticking with the best man if you do that. The reason they haven't got promoted this season automatically, assuming they don't, just touching wood there, is because they've been pipped to the line by two very strong teams. And you look at it next season, obviously Southampton will still be sticking around, but Sheffield United, I'll say right now, I don't think are going to be challenging for the top two as things stand. And then who else comes down? Burnley, Forest, Luton, one of those three. Two of those three. It's going to look like so. It's going to be tricky, but to give them the best chance, they may as well stick with the guy who's given them a record-breaking season in the way that they haven't got promoted. Because, as I said on Sunday's episode, they've got the best points tally ever for a side who haven't been automatically promoted, assuming Ipswich go up on the final day. I mean, you can't really blame him for them not going up. It's just, as I say, to bring it all back round, pipped by two very strong teams.
Plus, this could be Leeds' or Farke's Bielsa moment.
Maybe it could.
They bottle promotion, bottle the playoffs, and then win the title next season. I mean, Leeds fans won't want that, but it'd be very poetic.
Yeah. Maybe that's just how they do it. Maybe that's how Leeds United work. Speaking of managers, Jermain Defoe says he's had informal talks with Sunderland about becoming their new manager. Speaking to the Sunderland Echo, he admitted he's not officially been interviewed for the job, but has expressed his desire to return to the club. I'm not sure whether what old Jermain counts as informal talks is the same as what the club counts as informal talks, but you know what, I admire the ambition.
I was going to say, has he left a voicemail? Is that
yes? That's how the talks are gone.
yeah, guys. I'm free at the moment. I'm interested in the job. Give us a call back if you want to take this further.
Please
phone down. Please phone down.
Guys, it's been 2 weeks. You haven't responded still.
Just following up on my previous voicemail. Not heard anything back from you. Don't worry about it. Not stressing. I know you've got a lot on at the moment. Season's still going.
Yeah.
May 6th, give us a call.
I'll drop you an email as well.
All jokes aside, I feel bad because I love Jermain Defoe. I like the idea of it. I do like the idea of it. He's got some balls as well to come out and talk about it because he's forcing the club's hand a little bit to give him a call back. But he did the same. I did read that he did the same player to coach course that Tom Cleverley did. I didn't know that was a thing, but it's a thing apparently. And obviously Tom Cleverley is doing quite well at Watford. I'm not going to say that's going to transpire for success for Jermain Defoe, but he does have experience of coaching the 18s at Spurs. His playing pedigree adds to the gravitas a little bit as well. He's a legend at Sunderland, played under some incredible managers and coaches. It ticks quite a few boxes. Do they need someone with a little bit more experience than Jermain Defoe? I'm not saying managerial experience, but coaching experience. I think that might help.
I think a little more experience. Yeah. Is the bare minimum of
but they won't get a manager. They won't get a manager with big as balls as Jermain Defoe calling out Sunderland. There you go.
I suppose so. I mean, Defoe has been saying some pretty outrageous things, like Jack Clarke will definitely stay if I become Sunderland manager. I'm like, I don't think you can guarantee that, Jermain. I'm not sure that's the best idea.
The Sunderland board are thinking, no, we're definitely selling him in the summer.
Yeah.
We are. He's going.
Where have you got this from, Jermain? But yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. I think Sunderland needs someone who has at least some managerial experience, which Defoe doesn't have. And while he would be a crowd pleaser, I suppose, in the way that he's done it before with Sunderland, I think they need someone who has managed a football club before. That's the most sensible thing I can say here.
It's very Frank Lampard disappointment. I think if, to give him some sort of balance,
I know.
It would be a very Frank Lampard appointment.
But the thing is, right, like people will point to the likes of Cleverley and Lampard and say, look, they did pretty well in their first jobs in management, but Sunderland have had such a rotten end to the season that I think they need someone more ambitious than just playing a wild card like Jermain Defoe. They need to try and get things back on track, and I'm not sure Jermain Defoe is the best course for them to go down, but the way Sunderland have appointed managers over the past 6 months, it wouldn't surprise me. And just finally, we asked listeners for their fondest and or worst memories from the final day of the season on Sunday. Just now, we've had a good response. This is from Isaac, who's a Bolton fan. He says, "Hi lads, in the 2017-18 season, we stayed up by the proverbial skin of our teeth. We needed to win on the final day, and we were losing 2-1 in the 85th minute against Forest. My dad was getting ready to leave because he couldn't cope with another relegation. And just as he went to grab his jacket, David Wheater got an equaliser, and my dad was suddenly a lot more optimistic. A minute later, Aaron Wilbraham scored the goal which kept us up. If Wheats had scored that goal a minute or two later, my dad might not have seen the greatest comeback in our club's history. Love the pod, and hopefully we'll be joining you next season." What a magical moment that was, Justin.
Yeah, no, the Wilbraham. I remember the Wilbraham celebration. Now it just come to my mind. Yeah, that was an incredible moment. And again, it's just that drama. This is what I mean with the whole Huddersfield thing. I don't think Huddersfield will, despite alluding to it in the weekend show, I don't think Huddersfield will get a 15-goal swing. But if they take 3 points at Portman Road, it just gives you that memory for the rest of your life. Not a good one for Ipswich fans.
Yeah, it might not be a good one for Huddersfield fans if it helps Leeds get promoted, but that is a prime example of what can happen on the final day,
exactly,
isn't it?
Exactly.
I think we're more likely to see that drama in the relegation battle this season, but anything could happen, couldn't it?
Yeah, but 2-1 down with minutes to go, you get an equaliser and then a winner. It's what dreams are made of. It's
ridiculous, isn't it? It actually was ridiculous at the time.
Exactly,
and that's what we want to see on the final day. And as we say, relegation battle. I mean, everyone's talking about the promotion race. The relegation battle is probably where we may need to cast our eyes to at this stage, because unless something ridiculous happens, it looks like the top two race may be said and done. Maybe the playoff race as well, Justin. You can't discount it, can you? So, still plenty to fight for, isn't there? Anyway, getting back on track. This is from Matt Goddard. He says, "Hey up, Virgins. Not a championship last day, but still a highlight. 22nd of May 2022. Leeds needed to win to stay up. It was 1-1 until the 94th minute when Jack Harrison hit an absolute Justin Peach from outside the box to keep us in the Premier League. Absolute scenes." And just to add, it was my birthday. We went out for a family meal. I kept sneaking out from the table to the bar to watch it unfold. Safe to say, I spent more time by the screen. Rightly so, Matt. You wouldn't be a proper virgin if you didn't do that. So kudos to you. And this final one, this is from Bethan Reed. She says, "My favourite moment of supporting Ipswich has to be the promotion to the Championship on the final day last season. The atmosphere in the fan zone before the 6-0 win, even the weather, I just don't think it could have been better. Celebrating with my dad too. Absolutely love the podcast and love every episode." Isn't that sweet, Justin? Your dad was celebrating Derby's promotion at the weekend, wasn't he?
Yeah, 3-year banning order incoming. Got on the pitch, didn't he? Old 60-year-old Dave.
Yeah, I feel like you're missing the big thing here, where he was in the top stand at Pride Park and had to go out the stadium to come back in to go on the pitch.
Yeah, it's proper. Yeah, he was keen. He's he's a passionate Derby supporter. He wanted to be amongst the crowd. Literally said to me, "If you can't beat him, join him," and then walked off. Didn't see him. Not seen him since.
Still on the pitch.
Yeah, still there.
He's just on the pitch, on the Derby County pitch. Absolutely love that. That's just great stuff. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. This has been the Second Tier podcast, and this has been the midweek episode of the Second Tier. I've been looking back on two massive games in the grand scheme of the Championship season. And look, we'll be back on Friday with a preview show brought to you by SBK to make some predictions heading into the final day of the season. You don't want to miss it. So we will see you then. But yes, this has been the Second Tier podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.